I am going to go over how to add a new product to my community made to show you how to create a product on your store and to provide a little bit of guidance on what the fields that you're going to see, how to set them up to improve the search engine optimization for your products, as well as some of the details that are a bit more hidden in the system so that you can get the most out of your products as you list them on My Community Made. So the important thing to remember when adding a product to your store is that it is a two-step process. So first we have to create the product, its basic fields, add images, its title, its links, and then afterwards we go back through and we edit those products' more specific details. Things like permalink, keywords that you're targeting, all of those items. So first we're going to get started by hitting this Add New Product button right here. So this step of the process is pretty self-explanatory. We're going to add a product name. For our purposes, I'm going to call this Test. You would name this whatever your product happens to be. Make sure that your product title is not too long. You do want this to show up nicely in search results, and it should be somewhat descriptive of what your product is. We're then going to add the price of the product. In this case, we're going to use $50 as our stand-in price. And you also need to upload a product image as well. So if you have not added any photos, your media library will be empty. In that case, you would hit Upload Files. You're going to select a file from your device, just like that. You can also drag and drop. Now before you leave this page, we're just waiting on that upload to finish. Before you leave the media page, you're going to want to add the alt text to your product. So in this case, well, in all cases, the alt text is what will display if the image fails to load. For search engine purposes and for ADA compliance, you always want to fill this out with a description of what the image is. So in this case, it's an image of the test product. And that way, if this image fails to load for any reason, say the user has a slow internet connection, they'll still be able to see or read what the image is supposed to be showing. And for users who have any type of visual impairment, they'll be able to hear what the images are describing through the screen reading device. So we're going to then click Set Featured Image down here below. And what the featured image means is this is the image that will always show up whenever the product is shared or whenever the product is referenced on the home page in any way. It will always show the first image that you've uploaded. So you always want to make sure that's your best one. So if we're not happy with the featured image we've set, we can just exit it out and we'll add a new one. Make sure that we have our alt text, and we can say this is a image of our test product, but better. Now you can add additional images for your product as well, as you can see in these gallery images. Any type of product that could be viewed from multiple angles, it's always good to add those gallery images. Just be sure the alt text is descriptive of what you're showing. The short description of the product is pretty self-explanatory. All we're going to add here is just some quick details about what the product is. You want to refrain from any types of lists or bullet points or items like that. This is used when our ads that go to Facebook create the product. So you really want just a description, sort of a sales pitch to the customer of what they're buying if they buy this product. So in our case, they are buying a test product from My Community Made, showing the average type of product that can be found on the platform. So it's a very small description. It's very quick. This is going to show up when they see a ad from My Community Made referencing your product. You will be able to add additional keywords in the description at the bottom of the page. This is where you're going to add, sizing details, or you may add additional images or links on how to use the product. We just don't want that data showing up in our short description because it's not going to do a whole lot for your search engine optimization. It's not going to pull a whole lot of users in to click on the product. We want to save that for the long form description at the bottom of the page. We also want to make sure we have an appropriate category. So by clicking the Add New Category button, I can see all the different types of categories that My Community Made currently supports. So in this case, we may be selling an accessory. Clicking on this category shows the subcategories that fit within that object. So for instance, if you sell sunglasses and eyewear, that's a subcategory of the accessories category. Since in our case, we aren't actually selling an item, I'm going to just pick sunglasses and eyewear just as an example. Now, like many products on the site, while your product might be sunglasses and eyewear, it might also be considered an art product of some kind. So it's not uncommon to want multiple categories for your product. To do that, I'm just going to click this Add New Category button, and then I can select art and collectibles and pick whichever one of these subcategories most goes with that product. In this case, perhaps they are collectible. Now, tags are a little bit different than categories. With categories, users can search for objects based on that category. So for instance, a shopper on My Community Made might decide that they're interested in looking through the art and collectibles category. And in that case, only products related to art and collectibles, products that are under that category, are going to show up. Tags allow you to add more specific details that don't show up in the category system, but that a user might use to search for that product. So a great example is brand names would be something that you might use as a tag. So let's say, for instance, that you have edited an existing piece of clothing and you want to include that clothing's brand name. Well, you can do that as a tag, and that will create a new tag if it doesn't exist, or it will allow you to tag it to the existing tag when it shows up. Now, you don't want to stuff too many tags onto your product, but they are very useful for that extra bits of information that you can't show through the category system, but might still be relevant to the end user. So things like brands, even sometimes sizing in some cases, can work as a tag. Now, the one field I haven't touched on yet is the discounted price. This field right here is only for when you are running sales. So what the discounted price does is if I set this to 25, this will show up as being for sale at a price of $25 rather than my usual $50 price. This can be a little confusing. You typically want to leave this at 0 unless you do plan on running a sale on that product. Another option is if you do know that you will be running a sale on the product in the future, you can schedule when that sale will be. So for instance, if we want to run a Thanksgiving sale, I can say that this product will be on sale from November 25th to November 26th, and I can add a discounted price of $25. So now whether or not I log into my Community Made store, I know that this product will be discounted automatically to $25 on November 25th until November 26th. That can be really useful for running those sales automatically if you know you're going to be doing them. Just be sure to cancel them if you change your mind, because they will just automatically cut those prices. So I'm going to create the product so that we can see some of the advanced fields that show up after this initial product creation. It might just take a few minutes to load. All right. Now we have created the product and we have a new screen. So this screen here gives us the ability to change everything about the product. One of the things we like here at My Community Made is to leave as much control and flexibility up to the vendor as possible, and these fields are what allow us to do that. So we have our product type here set to simple, and all that means is that this product is sold as is. So think of this as any type of product that it comes in one size, it comes in just exactly as you describe it. And we're going to just explain the simple product type first, and then I'll move on to our other product types of variable, external, or group afterward. So The first two additional fields that we have here that have been added in this more advanced product editing section is the ability to set this as a downloadable product or as a virtual product. Most people aren't going to need to use these checkboxes, but doing so will just allow the user to download a file that you've uploaded to our server after the sale is done. So if you sell, say, crochet patterns or knitting patterns, you might set this as a downloadable product, and that way the user can only see the pattern after they've already completed the purchase. Virtual products are used for things like courses, products that only exist in cyberspace. It's not incredibly common for people to sell those items on My Community Made, but the option to do so does exist. The categories and prices remain the same as in that simplified product edit menu that we were just on, as do tags, the short description, and the long description. The point where we start to see some new fields is when we get to inventory. So inventory can be kind of confusing for users who haven't used inventory management systems on other platforms, but for the most part, you're just going to enable the product stock management and then set the amount of that item that you have available to you. So if I have 10 of this test product, then I set that stock quantity to 10. I can also set a low stock threshold, and what this will do is it will send me an email to notify me that I reached the low stock threshold. So for instance, if you sell knitted goods, setting that low stock threshold will give you time to start producing those items before they go out of stock. Additionally, you have the ability to turn on back ordering, and you have three options here. You can not allow back ordering, you can allow but notify the customer, or you can allow. It's up to you which one you choose, but we recommend allow but notify customer. And all that this will do is it will allow the customer to purchase the product even after you no longer have it in stock, but it will notify the customer that they're on back order and that you have to make the product first. Additionally, if you don't want your stock to drop too quickly and you want to have a little bit more control over how many of the products sell at a time, you can allow only one quantity of the stock to be bought in a single order by clicking this check mark here. Now you can change these options at any time. If you do use a separate inventory management platform of any kind, be sure to set your SKU number as well in order to integrate that with your own inventory management software. The geolocation field is not quite as important now as it used to be. Users can shop for products based on where they're located. So for instance, if you want to have your product show up to customers who live near where you live, then you want to make sure this check mark here is checked so that customers can see that the product was made near them, which might influence them to purchase your product rather than a competitor's product who might be located further away. The rank Math SEO, this section here can be a bit scary. All this does is improve your search engine optimization, or SEO is what you'll often see it referred to online. And what your SEO score is it's how likely a customer is to find your product both on and off of My Community Made. So here at My Community Made, we push all products to Google Merchant, Facebook Ads, and these products show up outside of My Community Made for users to be able to purchase on the platform itself. So improving your SEO score not only increases the chance that you'll be found on our platform, it also increases the chance that users who haven't shopped on My Community Made before will find your content and will get onto the platform to purchase your product. It also offers you some branding opportunities for your own store. So before we get started, I do want to point out that it will list errors as it's doing here. We haven't done anything wrong. This system is designed to allow me to rank for a specific keyword. And when I haven't done one of the steps it lists in order to rank for that keyword, it will mark it as an error. You don't want to worry too much about these errors because they don't necessarily mean that your content is bad. It just means that you haven't done everything you can to rank for that keyword. So in this case, if I'm selling knitted or crocheted products, I want to set a focus keyword that customer might type in if they want to purchase the type of product I sell. I might also consider keywords related to things like personalization, if I sell a personalized product. I want to pick something that is relatively unique though. I don't want to have my focus keyword be something that another user might use. So whatever your niche is and what you produce, that's what you want to build your focus keyword strategy around. In our case, we're selling a test product, so I'm going to set the focus keyword here as test. So what I'm telling the system is that I would like my product to rank higher than competitors when customers use keywords in their search queries similar to test. So I can see that so far my score is a 48 out of 100. So we can make a lot of improvements. And right below here, we have all the different ways that we can make those improvements. So I'm going to start with the easy ones and then work my way up to the more complicated parts of how this works. So first thing I can do is add a focus keyword to my SEO meta description. And the way I do that is I actually just edit this snippet here. And that pulls up this menu here where I can actually control exactly what the user sees when my product shows up in their search results page. And the important thing to remember is not only does the customer see this, but so does Google, Bing, and all of the other top search engines. So by controlling the search engine results, I can make my content show up a little bit higher than the competition's when that focus keyword is used. So in this case, I want to have a custom description that is going to make me rank higher for tests than other users, and Rank Math will let me know whether or not I've done everything I can in this menu in order to do that. So first, you can choose to erase any of these variables at the top that you would like. You can see that anything that starts with a percentage and ends with a percentage is a variable. So if you're proud of the My Community Made name and you want to leave that on, you can leave percent site name percent, and it will always show My Community Made at the end of your search engine result. However, if you would like to sort of stand out on your own and don't necessarily want shoppers to align you with My Community Made, or if you have a very long title, you can just delete any of these that you would like. And now all you can see is test. You can also have even more control over what shows up. For instance, all this is doing, the percent title percent variable here, is it's displaying the name of the product. But if I want to have a search engine result title of the product that's separate from the product's title itself, I can do that as well. And that sounds confusing, but what I'm really saying is the product name is what shows up inside My Community Made to tell customers what the product is. And what we're filling out here is what users who are not on My Community Made but might be interested in your product will see when they use Google search. So I can create a customized title for that product by typing something like test product on Google. So now whenever my product shows up outside of My Community Made to a user, it won't say test on My Community Made, it will say test product on Google. In real life, we wouldn't really want this name, but you can come up with some better examples of what you might want to use. For instance, on My Community Made, if you make knitted goods of any type, you might omit the word knitted because it doesn't necessarily do much to make you stand out against other My Community Made products. But on Google, you might want to include that keyword just so that you don't get lost in the Google search rankings. Now, one thing that it is pointing out to me is that I've only used 22 out of 60 available characters. So Rank Math would like me to increase the length of this title in some way. And you can do that by adding qualifiers, or in other words, adding some descriptive words about what the element that you're selling is. So something that is typical might be to say, add a location. So I could say this is a test product on Google made in Sturbridge, Mass. So now you can see I'm getting closer to green. I've added something that might be a search query for the end customer who might be interested in a more local product. And I'm also keeping it individual to the brand that we have. I'm not using very basic keywords that other competitors might be using. The permalink, this is what will show up in your link. So all My Community Made products have the URL mycommunitymade.com/product slash and then the title of the product. You can customize that as well. For example, there is a test-3 here. If I don't want that -3, I can just get rid of that. And now I have the URL mycommunitymade/product/test. Now you do want to be careful with this. You don't want to use a permalink somebody else has. The system should notify you if you do. But you mostly want to only use this to edit the permalink to be shorter than the title if you have a long descriptive title, or to create sort of a pretty permalink is what we call it. When you have a permalink that might be devoid of some details but shows up nicer on smaller screens. The description of the product, this is very similar to the short description. I'm just going to add some details that I want to show up in the search result query of users. And that might be something like test product made by small business in Sturbridge, Mass. So I'm hoping that whatever customer is looking for this test product, that they're also interested in buying from a local company in Sturbridge, Mass. But you can see I still have plenty of text to work with, so I can extend this even further. I can say produced with quality, sustainable materials. So now what I am doing here that is relevant to your business is I am taking certain keywords like sustainability or small business, which I've spelled wrong, and I am clarifying to Google that this product fits into those keywords as well as it fits into my initial focus keyword, which was test. You'll see at the top of this snippet editor that there's also a tab for social. And this will just give you a little mock-up of what this will show up looking like if it's shared to social media. And you have control over this as well. For instance, you can change the social media image. I can change it to be the picture of the product itself instead of that generic image that shows up whenever My Community Made is shared onto a different social media platform. I just have to wait a few minutes for it to pop up. There we go. So now when a user shares my product, rather than My Community Made's branding showing up, it'll show that product image that I set earlier. And notice again that it's the featured image that shows up and not any of the gallery images. I can also change my title to be more social media friendly. So while a Google search user found my product by typing in a search query, on Facebook or other social media platforms, nobody typed in anything to find my product. They're already a follower of mine. So I'll tailor the title for social media by leaving out some of those descriptive statements as to, where I'm located and items like that, and using a title that's more beneficial to a group that has already subscribed to me in the past. So you might use words like, new test item just added to the store. So that way when a user shares it, they'll see new test item just added to MCM on your Facebook page or wherever you share this to, rather than seeing that Google SEO title, which was much more tailored to showing up higher in search results. And these can be a lot of things to remember. You don't need to interact with this system as deeply as I am here if you don't want to. All of these extra fields just give you more control and better ability to tailor your marketing to really get more returns on the time that you invest into your shop. So the more you add to these SEO fields and the more data you put into them, the more successful your products will be in the long term. Description, I'm actually going to leave it as is here. And you would do the same thing with Twitter as well. So many of the same fields. In fact, you can even just click that toggle here, use data from Facebook tab, and it will automatically generate the Twitter share to use the exact same fields that I used in the Facebook one. That can save a lot of time if you're adding quite a few products. So now that I'm done with the snippet editor, I can just X out of that. And we can see that I now have the green check mark for the focus keyword used inside of SEO meta descriptions. So the rest of these fields are pretty self-explanatory. Some of them you might not be able to get the green check mark on because of existing bugs on the system that we're actively working on fixing. And then others are just a bit complicated. For instance, use focus keyword and subheadings like H2, H3, and H4. Right now, you don't actually have access to using subheadings H2 through H4. nor should you on a product description. Other items like keyword density, getting a 1% keyword density on a content for a description is very difficult to do, but you're welcome to take as much time as you want to get green check marks on all of these. Content readability is also a very useful one as well. Getting your content to be more readable. The system itself will actually recognize how easy it is to read your content. So scoring higher on all of these fields will just increase the chance that a user who is not familiar with your page or who is just using Google search will come across your product instead of someone else's. The other fields, advanced and schema, you want to ignore these. We actually have the schema configured on our end. You want to leave most of these robots meta fields as they are. I will probably do another video in the future going over all of Rank Math SEO. There's a lot that it covers. There's a lot that you can do with it. And there's also a lot of marketing tricks that go into knowing what the focus keyword you want to set is and how you can think about your social SEO versus your Google search SEO. So for now, I'm going to move on to the next section. And you can see that by clicking on these headers, I can also make them take up a bit less space on the page so that it's easier for us to focus on the next section as we go. Shipping and tax, these fields are pretty self-explanatory. You're going to add the weight, the length, the width, the height of the product. Now, where it gets complicated is in the shipping classes. So I will be doing a separate video on shipping and how it works. Just know that for 99% of your products, you are selecting standard. If you have interacted with the shipping class system and you have different types of classes, for example, if you use the small items class for products where the shipping costs less than normal shipping, go ahead and select that. And if you've created a free shipping within the United States class, then go ahead and use it. They do exist on the system already, so you can select them right away even if you haven't set them up. But you really want to make sure that you have it set to standard unless you know what you're doing. And like I said, we will have another video on how to set up your shipping classes and how to use that and how to set it to do all types of different things. The tax status, you want it to be taxable, most cases. If it is a non-taxable item and you're sure of that, then you can list it as none. Upsells. So if you have two products that are very similar to each other, then you can list it as an upsell. In this case, we only have the test product, but you can, for instance, create a tiered product. Perhaps a customer buys one version of your product and then later you expect them to buy a new and approved version. You can set up that upsell just by listing it in this field here. And all it will do is notify the user that there is a different type of that product that is available. These will show up in the cart just as other options for users to buy. An upsell can also refer to a added service that comes with the product. For instance, if you sell a non-customized version and a customized version of the product, then you could have the personalized version of that product be an upsell for the non-customized version. Upsells can be really confusing on the customer end, so I actually recommend using variable products for that, which we will go over when we get to variable products. For now, I'm going to leave that field as blank. Attributes. These are different attributes that the product might have. Typically, it's volume or the amount of a product that you're selling in cases like candles or soaps. In other cases, it's color or personalization options. If any of those apply, then you can add an attribute just by clicking Add Attribute. And you can see the attribute name shows up right within this attributes field. So I can type in personalized as an attribute, and perhaps in this personalization we're talking about, somebody's name, and you have different ways to add that product. You can create options. So for instance, there's option 1, option 2, option 3. So I have 3 different values here for personalization options. I want them to be visible on the product page. Then I can do that. I can now save this attribute. And these personalization options will then be visible on the front end when somebody attempts to buy this product. Now this is different than variable products. it shows up to the seller that one of these options was selected, but it doesn't change the price of the option. So you want to remember variable products mean that when this attribute is chosen, the price changes or the shipping changes. With simple products, we can have variables, but they don't change anything about the price or what the customer needs to do in order to receive the product. So now that we've talked about attributes, I'm going to close that field. You can enable bulk discounts. For instance, if you want a customer to get a deal if they buy 5 candles or 10 candles, you can just set the quantity of the item that the user would have to buy, then add a percentage. So for instance, in this case, if a user buys 5 products, they'll receive a 10% discount. So that's really everything for the bulk discount field. Not used very often, but very helpful for in any case where you might want to offer a discount for bulk purchases. RMA options. RMA is your returns, what is your policies on when a user dislikes a product. There are many cases where if you've personalized an item, you can't really accept returns. So if you normally accept returns, but in this case, you can no longer accept one for this product, you can just click this to override your default return policy. And then for instance, you would set the label as no return, no warranty, and then you can write a new RMA policy here. Don't accept returns. Now, you don't need to use this field if you aren't specifically overriding your RMA policy. So most of the time you can just leave it unchecked, but you do have the ability to sort of customize your store's policy based on what products you're selling. So if normally you accept returns, but on this product alone you do not, you can list that in the description so the customer is aware of it, but also list it on your RMA override so that you also have sort of that legal enforcement behind what you're saying. So the other options, these are just some additional options that don't really have anywhere else to live on the product edit page. So product status, you can set a product to being in draft if you're not ready to release it yet. Most of the time you'll want them to be online, and you can change the visibility as well. I'm not sure there's any advantage to doing this. In most cases, you want it to be visible. Purchase note is used pretty often. So in this case, I might be telling the user that, we have to make this product, or products are always made to order. So it may take 3 to 4 days to receive your product. And what the purchase note field means is that when the user purchases it, within that email that says thank you for your purchase, this note will be added to that. And then enabling product reviews. This just allows you to turn off reviews for certain products that you don't want to be reviewable, or leave it on for products you do want to be reviewed. It can be tempting to uncheck the enable product reviews button. Keep in mind on My Community Made, the only people who can review products are people who have verifiably purchased that product. So if you're worried about review spam, don't be. That will not happen on this site. You want to leave it checked because products that have higher reviews are more likely to be chosen by customers. There's not very many good reasons to uncheck that field. And then the last field on the whole list is to advertise the product. So this is the option to allow your product to show up at the top of My Community Made for 10 days at a cost of $5 in this case. This pricing and the amount of time that the product stays up for are variable. So whatever you see at the time you're going to advertise your product is just what the going rate is. And what it means by advertise this product for 10 days is when somebody goes to the home page of My Community Made, they'll see whatever products are advertised in that very top row. So whichever products that are being advertised, they show up just a little bit differently to tell the customer that they're sponsored. And you can choose to have this product show up there for 10 days just by paying $5. And to do that, all you have to do is just hit this check, and it will ask you, are you sure you want to advertise the product? And I say, okay. Now, when I save the product, I haven't actually advertised it yet. I will then need to go to my cart and finish the purchase. And then upon purchase, the product will start showing up at the top of the page immediately for 10 days. Now, currently, while we're recording this video, we only allow 5 products to be advertised at a time, and they stay up for 10 days from the moment of purchase. There are other things that we do when somebody pays to advertise a product with us. It will show up on our social media page, in the newsletter as well. So that's what that field is for. You don't need to purchase advertisements at the moment you create the product. You can also do so later if you'd like. Advertising is something that is always available on the site whenever it's convenient for you to do so. So now that I've gone through overall the simple product types, I'll go over the variable product types and group product types and external product types.